Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of MissFlips. If you're new here, my name is Marissa and I flip furniture. In today's episode, we are going to be putting a glass table on top of a nightstand. If you guys remember this guy right here, I did this a couple weeks back for a client of mine, but she actually ended up wanting a glass top on her table. So we're gonna be doing that for her. And I'm gonna be showing you guys how I did it. If you guys haven't watched that video already, I'll make sure to link it in this corner. Maybe I got it right this time. I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna be confident and say it's there. Anyways, if you guys are liking the vibes already and want to stay tuned for more videos, I have lots coming up. We got a bunch of holiday challenges coming up with so many awesome, amazing YouTubers. So make sure to like and subscribe and do all those things so that you can stay tuned and posted on those videos. So without further ado, let's get flippin'. Alright gang, so if you guys remember, I took this piece and turned it into this piece, and my client wanted a glass top on her nightstand, and so I am going to do that for her. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's matching the drawers, so I'm going to put some water in my sink to soak the cane, and whilst that was soaking, I took my mini little tape measure here and measured out the length and width of the top of the nightstand so that I can cut out the proper size piece out of the cane. And you want to make sure that you're doing this in a way that saves as much cane as possible. I made sure that the water was a little bit warm. It kind of speeds up the process this way. And I couldn't fit all of the cane in at the same time, so I kind of just put as much as I could in there and then put something on top of it to hold it down. That way it was completely submerged. And while that soaked, you want to let it sit for about a half an hour. So I had plenty of time to cut out my trim pieces. And I got this little jig at a Home Depot. Someone recommended it in the comments in my last video, so I thought I would give it a try. So I put the piece where it needed to go and then started sawing away. And I do have to say, it was a lot more difficult than using my utility tool that I used last time. It just kept sliding everywhere and it took a lot of hand power and elbow grease to get that thing cut. And yeah, so I personally liked the tool that I was using before, but I was able to get absolutely perfect cuts with this. The angle on it was exactly what I needed. So that was definitely a plus about using this tool. But before I went ahead and started cutting up the rest of the wood, I wanted to make sure that it was exactly what I needed, and it turned out to fit perfectly. So I went ahead and traced that shape so that the other one would come out exactly the same. I'm kind of speeding through this process because I know that you guys have already seen this process in the prior video, but if you would like more details on how to do the cane trimming and whatnot, make sure to go check out my last video and it'll all be there for you. For the stain, I actually started using a paper towel for stain because I find that it kind of ruins the cloth that you use. And you know, I don't like waste, so I try to not throw away cloths whenever I can, and I would much rather throw away, you know, a piece of paper towel instead of an entire cloth. But yeah, anyways, putting on some mahogany stain to match the rest of the piece, and once that was all stained, I could finally get onto the cane. So once this baby has soaked for about 20 to 30 minutes or so, you want to take it out of there and you want to kind of just dab it with a cloth or just press it with a cloth, but I didn't have a cloth that was big enough or a towel that was big enough at my disposal. So I just wiped it down as best as I could, trying to get all of that excess water off there, and then went over to my nightstand and started figuring out the layout. Before you get things stapled on, you want to cut off any of the excess little trim bits, and you want to remember that the wooden trim is going to be going over the majority of the outer edge of the cane. So you can cut off quite a bit here, and just make sure you're not cutting off too much that the trim won't cover. So when stapling it down, you want to start with one side and you want to put it exactly where you want it to stay, where the trim will cover it. And you start on one side, putting one staple in the middle, and then when cane dries, it kind of pulls a little bit more taut. It gets tighter and tighter, so you want to make sure that you pull it as tight as you can while it's still wet. That way when it dries, it'll be as tight as it can possibly be. So pull it tight, do another staple, and then do the exact same things to the other sides. And once your main anchor staples are in place, you can go around with as many staples as you want just to make sure that it is secure and tight. But do remember that you don't need to be too excessive with the staples this time around, just simply because you are going to be gluing down the trim, and that'll help secure it even more. But it's all about personal preference, what you feel secure with and what you feel good about doing. I personally like to staple down as much as possible, and then once all my staples are in there, I go in there with a hammer and just make sure those staples are as flat as they can possibly be. That way my trim has something to adhere to. And since I only have 2 of these really, really big clamps, I had to work one side at a time. So I went ahead and put this on there and clamped it down. I left it for about 8 hours or so, and I did this rotating starting in the morning, and then at night I would change over to the next clamp and leave that for another 8 to 10 hours, and then do the next one the next morning, and so on and so forth until it was finally complete with the very last piece of trim. And once the trim was complete, I went in there with some wood filler into the corners so that there wouldn't be any cracks in the seam, and it looked really smooth and professional. So I went in there and did it to all 4 corners, just filling in those cracks. And then once that dried, this wood filler is actually really cool because all you need to do once it's dry, you just take a wet cloth and you can wipe up all of that excess off there, and there's no sanding necessary. I found this to be super helpful, and you end up with a really smooth, nice finish, and it ends up looking pretty seamless, and there's no dust. You don't have to worry about breathing in any particles or getting dust on the rest of your pieces if you're working in a garage like I am. It's very indoor friendly if you're looking to do your work in a workshop or in a garage or an indoor space that lets you hide away from the cold weather that's coming our way. So for the glass top, I wanted it to stay on pretty securely, so I went ahead and got these rubber pads from Home Depot and just put them on each corner of the top of the trim. And yeah, called it a day. This makes sure that when you put the glass on there, it will not move anywhere. So I got this glass top from a place online called Duels or Dulles or Dulls Glass and Mirror. I'll make sure to include the link in the description below for you guys, but I was able to get a custom piece of glass to go on top of this table with the exact measurements that I needed, as well as the edge was customizable, and it was pretty cool. It just came in this cool little packaging and it was flawless, just had a couple smudges that I was happy to clean off, and it ended up turning out great. So this piece will be heading off to its new owner in New York this weekend, and if you guys are interested to find out how I ship my pieces, make sure to go over to my U-ship tutorial, and I'll have all the information in the description below. Alright guys, so that is how you put a glass top on a table. It is super simple. You don't even have to do all of the steps that I did in the video. I just did them because that's what my client requested. But honestly, all it takes is ordering the piece of glass and putting the little rubber pads, or you can even put cloth pads depending on what your preference is. But yeah, and then you got yourself a glass table. Bada bing, bada boom. And you know, I just realized that I keep saying table, but it's really a nightstand. But I suppose you could also do a table. You could do really anything, honestly. I guess that's up to you. Anyways, once again, guys, please make sure to like and subscribe and do all those things so that you can stay tuned for what's to come. We got so many awesome holiday challenges. We have a Christmas challenge. We have a Black Friday challenge coming up. We got all that good stuff, and in the meantime, I'm gonna be working on my own commissioned pieces and making videos for you guys to see, so there is so much coming out. So like, subscribe, hit that little bell button, and then yeah, let's be one big happy flippin' family. All right guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay flippin'. Mwah.